Freedom is not to be found in any particular location or any place. It is not a change in circumstance. It is not an inner change. It is not that something has to happen. Freedom is not personal. It is not some kind of experience. It is not some kind of explosion or fireworks. Freedom is actually the recognition that everything, all things, the way that they are already free. That everything is playing out as that freedom. And that freedom is infinite. It is unlimited. It's not that you have to understand something. It is not that you acquire some special piece of knowledge that illuminates you. It is not that there has to be some kind of firework experience. It is that very simple recognition that the allness of life, whatever is taking place as the tree, taking place as the bird, as the sky, as the sun, as the body, taking place even as anger, even as a busy mind, thoughts, feelings, sensations, even taking place as suffering itself, is the play of freedom. It's a seeming unfolding of freedom itself. That's how free the totality is. It's so free that it can play as appearing limited. It can play as appearing to suffer. Just as someone is dreaming at night and they can have a bad dream and they can be kind of suffering in the dream, is it really, truly happening? Does it really mean that there is no freedom? Or is it just some kind of temporary play that's happening within freedom itself, made of freedom itself? This is the recognition. The recognition that freedom is already the case. If you think that freedom is not the case, you think you have to change something, that you have to change, you have to make something happen. And all of that is not immediate. Life is immediate. The suchness, the thusness, the isness of life is immediate. It's listening to these words. It is sitting in a seat. It is noticing the dog barking. It is the uncomfortable feeling, or the pleasant feeling. It is the challenging situation, or the easy situation. Pain or pleasure. It's all the playing out of freedom. And that freedom is fulfilled, complete, whole. There's nothing missing from it. There is no lack. But what seems to get in the way of this recognition is the fact that there's kind of been this added, we could kind of say like a software, an artificial sense of self that's been created, which can be very visceral. It can feel like an energetic sense of confinement within the body. This energetic sense of confinement in the body begins first, and then what kind of gets built up onto that is all of this artificial information and knowledge that gets passed on from humanity, made of language, made of thought, made of memory, in which somebody is then remembering who they think they are. They develop this identity based on this energetic sense of confinement. They build an identity, a name, identification with a race, with a religion, a class. All these ideas, the personality, the characteristics, the preferences, the likes and dislikes, the belief systems. It all gets into this hallucination of being an artificial self that is isolated and fragmented from the totality. And so that becomes the experience. It's very much like a dreamlike experience, kind of like a hypnotic trance. And there's nothing right or wrong with that. That is also the play of freedom itself, which can be a real shock to this sense of a separate person that is seeking something. They think, well, how can that be freedom? And of course, while the sense of being this separate person, this me, this I, this ego, this self, while that is happening, seeming to happen, it can't see the freedom. All that it knows is its own experience. There's no way of knowing the totality of this freedom. Because only when it as a knower, as a separate knower, comes to an end, is the totality of freedom there. Clear. It's always there, but somehow it is being blocked. It's like a blind spot. It's like the sun in the sky. The sun is there. But you can take your finger, you can put your finger as if it is over the sun, and for you, you seem to block out the sun. But do you really block out the sun? No. It only appears that way because there's a blind spot, and the blind spot is this whole visceral, energetic, and intellectual sense of being a separate person, an isolated, fragmented, limited identity in a dreamlike experience. And that gets fortified and strengthened by this kind of artificial story that has been passed on from generation to generation. The human story. The story of being a separate person that needs to get something, to be complete, to be whole, that must find something, that must become more, that must have more, that must search for freedom, that must search for reality, that must search for fulfillment, that must search for love. When really, the freedom, the love, the fulfillment is already here, has always been here, and will always be there. So freedom is really, or the coming to the end of this isolated sense of self, is the recognition that freedom is all that there is, that everything is the play of freedom. Freedom is playing out and taking place as the computer, as the body, as the tree, as the animal. That is the play of freedom. It's all inclusive, doesn't exclude anything. It's only the artificial sense of self and its intellectualizing and its program of thinking in a certain way, its experience, that tries to compartmentalize everything, separates everything, segregates everything, creates distinctions. And it has a whole perception of that, whole belief system around that. So this totality of freedom cannot be understood, cannot be conceptualized, it cannot be got at by the intellect, by thought. It's not that you arrive at a certain answer and say, oh look, I know. It's more like an unknowing. It's more like an unbelieving. It's the remove of doubt. Not that when you have no doubt there is certainty. There is no opposite. It's just simply there is no doubt. Not that it's then replaced with certainty. Not that it's then replaced with I know. It's the absence of I know, the absence of certainty as well as the absence of doubt. And then it is just the way that it is. just the way of things naturally. To be natural. Life is natural. There is the natural reality, and there's this seeming artificial reality that has been created through that energetic sense of confinement and isolation, and all of the ideas, identities that have been heaped on top of that. A whole identity built in a story, in a narrative that is being remembered all the time. And that's the experience, the dreamlike experience of this artificial sense of self.